First up, shares of AB InBev are trading higher today after the company posted a revenue beat for Q4. They did cite a gain in total volume and strong performances from Budweiser and premium brands Corona and Stella Artois. The world's largest brewer also forecasted strong revenue and profit growth in 2019. Increasing beer sales, Frank, the stock is up 19% this year, even as we keep talking about the secular decline of this category.
Well, it's a great year for beer, at least for the stock. So if you're asking me, is beer back? Well, maybe, but it actually never really went anywhere. Around the world, beer is still really popular. And also, it has a lower price point than a lot of other things like wine and spirits, so it's easier for more people to get. If you look at AB InBev's business, it's growing all around the world, especially in Mexico. And also over in Asia, they have actually a possibility of having one of the hottest IPOs this year by spinning off their brewery business in Asia. So is beer back in the U.S.? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys drink beer, but around the world, it's still really popular.
I mean, here and there, I don't know. But I thought that it wasn't as popular with millennials. We talked about the spirits drinkers.
They like premium beer, apparently.
Yeah, right.
There's a thing called premiumization of beer that's going on, where they're trying to hawk the higher-end sort of craft-looking beers as opposed to the Budweisers, which sell well elsewhere in the world, but definitely not in the United States, where they're losing share.
Here's the problem, though. I covered the beverage beat for the Wall Street Journal for years, and it's all about scale, right? So if you're going premium and craft in the U.S. and developed markets, and then you're going toward the cheaper beers in the undeveloped markets, you lose your scale. The other problem is that this is a company with $100 billion in debt. From their SAB sales. So this is one of the most indebted corporate balance sheets out there right now, and they've got to start earning a lot and growing a lot to pay that off.
The saving grace for that is that the bulk of it, somewhere around 94% of that, is fixed rate debt, which they just refinanced. So at least it's not going to fluctuate. If rates do eventually go higher, they won't be stung by that. But that's still a lot of debt to be carrying around. And in the era of Kraft Heinz and what happened to that, you got to wonder whether or not a lot of these companies are just going to get re-rated as a group. The highly levered, companies whose strategy has been acquiring, which may not have the price leverage that they necessarily need.
Well, here's the other thing that's happening, maybe eating away at the beer category. Martha Stewart, and sometimes we say this is a sign of a top, she's teaming up with Canadian pot player Canopy Growth in a new business partnership. Stewart will play an advisory role at Canopy. Her first task will be developing a new line of CBD products for animals. But this isn't Canopy's first celebrity partnership. It has also worked with Snoop Dogg, who also worked with Martha. But anyway, to develop a line of pot products called Leafs by Snoop. Frank, Martha has a fabulous way of always jumping to the next big thing.
Absolutely.
Does that tell us for cannabis it's that?
Well, this is the next big thing. By 2022, the CBD market is expected to grow to $22 billion. So there's so much profit involved, but we have to remember that CBD, cannabis, all this stuff is a commodity. And so how do you differentiate a commodity? You brand it. You put Martha Stewart on it. It's branding it, similar to what she did with Kmart. It's totally different businesses, but she puts out sheets. If Kmart puts out the sheet, maybe it sells for $5. If you slap Martha Stewart's name on it, it sells for $10.
I loved that line myself. I know a lot more about sheets than I know about CBD, Melissa. So have we established that this category is growing at the expense of beer and some of the deals that Constellation's been making along?
Not CBD. It's still very new in terms of legalization of CBD. It's more THC. If you overlap sort of where sales are for beer, where marijuana has been legalized, you've seen a little bit more softness in those particular states. But in terms of this specific deal, this is a land grab at this point. With the passage of the Farm Bill, CBD has become legal. You can sell this stuff across the United States. You can get scale for a lot of these products. Canopy Growth specifically invested $100 million in an industrial hemp project in upstate New York. And so they're going full force. The wild card here is still regulation. The FDA just announced yesterday, because Gottlieb was on the Hill yesterday, he was asked specifically about this question. We know now that they're going to have the first public hearings regarding the legalization of CBD in food products in April. It is not legal. And there had been crackdowns, especially here in New York, but in other places in the country, because there's no monitoring in terms of the level, the amount of CBD.
We have a candy truck that goes around our neighborhood. It's CBD candy.
No, and,
really?
Yeah, it's called weed candy or something like that. And you don't know what it is, but there's always a line for the CBD candy truck.
Is it still operating?
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably doing better than ever, actually. Like, why are the moms and dads out there? Anyhow, shares of Fitbit are plunging today. We've talked a lot about wearables, so this is an interesting one. The company issued weaker than expected guidance for the first quarter and is struggling to compete with Apple in the wearables market. Now, that might not sound, like, of course, we can understand that, but Garmin had great wearable sales. Best Buy said wearables helped their sales. What's going on with Fitbit?
Well, they're trying to move away from the sort of fitness tracker toward watches and wellness, and they've got a program with health insurance companies to develop products that'll be part of your health insurance. I just don't see what the must-have application is for Fitbit products yet. And right now,
the steps. It used to be the steps, but now the steps have been commoditized.
And the other problem is their prices are coming down, and they forecast for next year that the prices are going to continue coming down. So if you're not getting premium prices, if you're not growing that margin, as a new tech company, I just don't see where you go, especially against Apple right now.
Exactly. I mean, it's a huge market. I'm going to hit you with another number, $27 billion industry by 2022. But when we're talking about wearables, you might be thinking about something on your wrist. Apple's thinking about what's in your ear, the AirPods.
Oh.
They're actually already working on using those to do biometric readings, to take your steps and everything else. And as we can see, everybody around here has an AirPod in their ear. So maybe it's nothing's wrong with Fitbit. What's right about Apple, this time they're ahead of the curve, where on cell phones, they might have missed the mark on having a really expensive cell phone. The AirPods are really popular, and they can have more than one use, and they're also just really easy to wear.
And same with the watch. They've got the EKG. They've got other applications, and they're trying to really own this market. All right. How about this one? The number of pedestrians killed on U.S. roadways just hit its highest level in 28 years. That was 2018's figure. Now, that's also according to a new report from the Governor's Highway Safety Association, saying an estimated about 6,200 pedestrians were killed last year. People are being distracted by their smartphones. That is a leading factor. Is wearables going to solve that?
I mean, if Apple really wants to do mankind good, it should have an auto mode in addition to an airplane mode, where you can only engage it if you're using Siri or some other voice-controlled sort of system instead of touching the phone, et cetera. I mean, I don't understand why this does not exist already. It seems like a very simple fix.
Here's an anecdote from my car the other day. So I've turned off Siri on the phone over some of the, privacy or whatever concerns, but I now can't use voice in my car when the phone is plugged in. So it actually...
You can't talk to yourself anymore?
I can still sing along to all my favorite songs from 2003, all the Rihanna, but I can't actually, like, the car itself has a voice system where I can say, call, Robert Frank or whatever. But if I plug in my phone, unless I have Siri on, now I can't use it. Point being, I guess we either have to be all in on these operations or not.
Well, there's actually, sorry to interrupt you, there's two factors. There's also people walking and texting.
I was going to say, it's pedestrians, too.
I think everybody here is guilty of. How many times have you crossed a New York City street and you're looking down at your phone?
Never. That is the most foolish thing.
I do it all the time.
I see it all the time.
I see it all the time.
I see it all the time.
I even see people riding bikes and texting.
Apparently in Germany, they have lights on the bottom of some of the crosswalks that will help kind of catch your attention to say, hey, look up.
Oh, that's smart. I like that.
That might be the only way, right? It's almost like rumble strips for people or something like that. Some way of alerting you, hey, you're at an intersection.
They have to just give out a lot of tickets, raise the fines. People only remember if they are financially harmed.
That's true.
Walking while texting, $100. That's a revenue raiser.
Yeah.
That is a revenue raiser.
Finally, and speaking of Rihanna, her empire is getting bigger. The singer is partnering with LVMH on a luxury fashion brand. She's apparently investing much of her own money into this venture and will be just under a 50% stakeholder in the business. LVMH hasn't launched a new branding since 1987. And Robert, they're calling her the next Coco Chanel.
Yeah, this is how social media and celebrity is changing luxury. It's changing the whole culture world. And, Rihanna, people thought, okay, maybe she'll do a deal with Adidas or Puma or something like that. LVMH is the luxury standard in the world. And for them to say, we're going to invest $30 million with you, she's going to partner another
only have half of the ownership, basically.
Exactly. And they haven't done this in 31 years. And, she's got 6 million followers on Instagram. Her beauty product line, which she did with them with Kendo, which is one of their beauty lines, that is going to hit $1 billion in sales soon. Jeez. So it's working. And
but what if we're at peak Rihanna? What if that's a lot of they got a long-term view on her.
I think there's a lot of roadway for Rihanna left to go. But a Forbes story said that 92% of consumers trust social media influencers more than they do ads. This is the ultimate social media influencer. You just said she has 6 million followers. Also, this is going to expand beyond just clothes and makeup. Supposedly, it's going to be garden tools, furniture.
Garden tools. That's what I need.
Because I need an LVMH hoe.
Well, I want
That's the term I think everybody's supposed to stay away from this.
That's strictly speaking, right?